Hello and welcome to the Boeing 757 from Flight Factor. This is going to be a initial thoughts slash review slash whatever. First time flying it, but you know, I'm at home with the Boeings. I own the Flight Factor 767, have done for a long time. And these two modules, so the Flight Factor 767 and the 757, are the most expensive airplanes that you can buy for your simulator at home. It used to be the Queen of the Skies for Prepared 3D was the most expensive. That was like about $140, maybe even $100 and a bit more. But of course, with Prepared 6, they no longer support it, and they've said that they're not going to. And so, as best I can tell, this now takes the crown. So you're going to see, well, is it even worth paying for it? As I do this, it's the back end of July 2023. Everything's updated, and so, you know, what you see is what you get. I'll just be doing a short flight across the UK. We're flying with AutoOrtho scenery. I've got Avitab, better pushback, but other than that, everything is pretty much stock. And so, yeah, what you see here is kind of what you get without having to pay anything else, really. All right, so just the default one. I bought the, the global pack, and I saw that one of them is like Air Force 2, the US of A. So I believe this is an Air Force plane, as in it belongs to the United States Air Force. And of course, you've got Air Force 1, which is a 747. You've then got a backup Air Force 1, which is, it depends if the president's on it or not as to which one is called Air Force 1. But, there's always two that fly in case something goes wrong. And I think if nothing goes wrong, it just acts as a bit of a decoy, like, oh, which one's he in kind of thing. And then this one is like number, this is the backup to the backup, I guess, known as Air Force 2. And we're going to do a quick flight across the UK. Again, this is my very first time flying the 757, but I feel confident just because I know the 767 and I know Flight Factor, and at least in the cockpit, they seemed a little similar. We'll see how it goes, and again, I'll give you my thoughts. Flight Factors, by the way, for those that don't know, is the very first time that I started an engine up, didn't allow it enough time to warm up. I went to take off and that engine died on me. I've never known any other aircraft simulate that unless we're talking props inside DCS. Props, and again, it's not all of them, it's some of them. You don't let them warm up properly. You go from cold and dark to full power. You're going to get 2 or 3 minutes, whatever, out of it, and then boom, it's suddenly going to die on you. That happened in the 7.6. I see no reason why it wouldn't happen in this, simply because they're both very expensive modules to buy. And so some saying, all right, get on with it then. What's the flight plan look like? Well, I thought we'd do one together, and this time we're going to use Sim Toolkit Pro to do it. So as said, we're Manchester. So if I just zoom out, here's where we are, of course, the UK. You can see here there's loads of people simming today online. Again, I'm not going to go online just because it's a lot easier when you're flying new planes, especially when you're streaming, just to do it yourself the first time or two. So we're here, Manchester, just on the edge of this large bit of weather, and we're going to... I was going to say London, but you know what? Why don't we fly up north way? I know we've got Edinburgh area up here, I think. EGPE, I think, if memory serves. Let's try it. So flight planning then. Departure, I think you can just put in the full name. Indeed you can. So one of the advantages of using Sim Toolkit Pro. So Manchester, and I'm just looking for EGCC, which would have been quicker. And then let's go to Edim, and there we go, EGPH. And so yeah, good job I was able to check. Now look at this, there are actually a couple of flights that do operate this from Flybe, this particular route, and I see no reason why we don't grab it regardless, even though we're going to use the 7.5. So let's select that particular flight. I'm going to change the aircraft type, and I'm going to select my 7.5 that I've just added onto my fleet. It also comes with the 757-300, as well as the freighter variants. But for now, let's just have fun with the USAF version. I've even had selected the airline and screenshot there from the game. All right, so that's it. Call sign. Obviously not Bravo Echo. Let's just go with, I guess they just call it USAF 002. Or maybe they just say USAF 2. Either way, let's just go to USA, so Air Force 2, basically. Flight number, again, let's just go AF 2. We know what we're doing. Departure time, July the 18th. I said it was the back end of July. It's the 18th of July. Departure 11:42. It's that is Zulu, I beg your pardon. So which is, I don't think we need quite as much time as that. I'm going to give myself a few minutes less. 11:35, so that's about 20 minutes. We'll see if I can go any sooner. I will. I love alt rating in pounds, and so pounds it is. Let's have a look over here. Auto. That's fine. Taxi out time. We'll give ourselves 10 minutes. Taxi in. We'll give ourselves 5. Passengers auto, cargo auto. We'll see what it gives us. Departure preference, just according to which way the wind blowing. Really, it should do it automatically. And so auto. No step lines. Let's generate 160 nautical miles. It reckons roughly 33 minutes in the air. Again, it's gonna be long enough just for you to get an idea of it without just hanging around in the cruise for hours. Me as well, and I'll just be able to, again, I'll say what I think. Things that jump out at me, for those that are unaware, you know, I have loads of different planes across Microsoft Flight Simulator, Xplane, DCS, I own them all. So I will give you my honest opinion, and I've flown in real world. You know, I like to say, if something's good, I'll say it. If it's not, I'll say it. That's the great thing about not being sponsored by anyone. You can say what you want, and you don't, not even it's an NDA, but even that even if there isn't an NDA, but somebody sponsors you, you're going to have that little thing in back of your head saying, well, if I get too critical, they ain't going to sponsor me next, you know, and I'm not going to bore you with that same old spiel all over, but I just, that's always the thing with the bigger channels. They always say everything's amazing, and you think, is it really? Right, that's it. So departing looks like runway 23 right. Usually you depart 23 left for Manchester, but whatever. We'll take it. And Edinburgh looks like runway 06. Alright, so let's hit fly now. Let's check this is connected. I think it's connected. One quick way to see. So let's bring us back into Xplane there. And I think I can put the overlays on. And indeed I can. There we go. So that confirms it's working. Manchester to Edinburgh. You've seen the top left. That's the EGCC to EGPH. And everything there looks good. Great. I'm going to leave that on for this flight. I don't normally, but let's do it this time. And let's jump back on into the sim, and we'll make a start then. So, when I loaded it up, obviously asked for your key code and that. You have to reload it. After all of that, that's where you join me at. I then use the little tablet that comes with the aircraft, which we'll take a look at in a minute, to get these little objects. So these objects are part of the aircraft. They're not part of some external plugin, like external. What is it? I do have an external thing. External ground handling one. It's not part of that. Just so you know. Right, let's jump in. Controller-wise, I've just taken my controls directly over from the Flight Factor 767, so I don't think it's going to work perfectly, but hopefully all the main ones will be in, and we'll do a flight control check on startup, and providing that's okay, everything else we can click for this flight. We do have here the tablet that comes with the aircraft. Those of you that do have the 7.6, you'll feel right at home. Basically, this is, as with many aircraft that have a tablet, a aircraft settings /failures setup thing /fuel loadout, all the rest of it. I will say this is one of the things that makes Flight Factor stand out a little bit above some of the others. There's a lot more options to it. So if we go to sim settings, I mean, you know, a lot of this is very basic. interaction. You know, do you want to click stuff? Do you want to be able to use the mouse wheel? Do you want to have to click it first before using the mouse wheel? Some VR stuff, tool tips and so on. One thing that I find is perhaps just, I wish there was an in-between setting. You see here the dirt on the screen. I like the touch. You can turn it off, but I would like, or you can even increase it, but I would like there to be like, I want some, but not to this extreme. And if I can just show you where the particular setting is. Effects parameters. Yeah, here we go. Dirt on screen. You've only got the, you've got off, and if you increase it, half, and then you've got full blast. Well, I would like there to be somewhere between off and half. I just think that's a little excessive. And some of these you can see there are. I mean, like this Windows reflection, you can see there's several options. And if I, again, I realize this is going to be old hat to some, but for those of you that, you know, if you just look out the window as I turn it up, you can see ever so slightly that the reflections increasing. Perhaps that's a better spot to do it in. And yeah, so I like to have that option. Just be nice to be able to, you know, because otherwise I want to roll around like this, but it just looks a little bit too clean. And again, I like that you've even got a reflection on the instruments here. You can see the throttle levers in that window as I move, reflecting, which I think is just really good. We've got like a bit of a glare on the instrumentation as well. It's all good. Right, anti-aliasing as well. I'm going to just have it on half, which is the default. If it is at all problematic, I will just turn it off. We will see once we're in the air and how different lighting. So general, you've got all of those settings here. Charts. Yeah, you can load stuff in separately. I believe you can connect your Navigraph account to this, but I don't bother because I just use up here Navigraph. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. All right, so that's in. I assume the flight plan that we just did was generated. So if I come here to charts, let's just force it to reload. EGCCPH 18th, so great, it is in indeed. So this is the flight we're doing today. And let's just carry on going through here. So operations ground. So this is going to be chocks, ladders, stairs, fuel truck and so on. Waste unit. The flight factor is one of those modules, for those that don't know, that sort of insists that, you know, if you want to change the passenger loadout where you better be stood still, parking brakes on, doors open and the stairs connected, or it won't let you. Some modules don't care. I mean, some let you change the weight mid-flight, but others, like this one, bit of a stickler in that regard. Of course, it's realistic, but it's, you know, it's just something to be aware of. And then you've got the airplane set up here, which is basically what doors you've got open. I like the option here, how much wing flex do you want to see, reflections and so on. Engine type, you've got your Pratt & Whitneys as well as your Rolls Royce. Do you want winglets or not? Automatic gear lever, automatic blinds. So if you're flying along and it's sunny on one side, you'll see the blinds come down, which sometimes is great. Other times, like if you want to be inside with the passenger view, that can also be annoying. So, you know, it's good that they've got the option. And then they've got more options here, which is basically, I think, just a replica of what we see down here. And then, yeah, one of, if not the best failure systems, if it's anything like the 767, which I'm just going to look here. Yeah, so you want a new failure. You know, there's so many different ways of it being triggered. Immediately, in a certain time, in a random amount of time with an average, in time after something else happening, at or above a certain height. And so what you can do is you can say, oh, I want it to happen at or above a certain height, but then you can build another layer and then say either at a time or randomly. And so it won't happen until 20,000 feet, but then not necessarily 20,001, because you could then put in a random delay, so maybe 5 to 10 minutes after it gets, and you can keep building as you like, you know, with many things. And these, you know, come with like, you know, a percentage. It's not a guaranteed thing, so you can create fault scenarios that even surprise you, but at least you know you're going to get something relatively severe. And you can actually, once you've created an entire fault scenario, you can basically save that and share it with others, which is great because, you know, even if you half know what's coming, you still kind of know, so that's cool. And then in flight, I think was, yeah, PA, you know, welcome. Let's have a listen to just the welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the head purser. The crew would like to welcome you on board this Boeing airliner. If you haven't already done so, please stow your carry-on luggage underneath the seat.
All right, so we get the idea. Charts and checklists. Well, you know me, I'm not a stickler for checklists. I like to gloss over. So that's that.
Step 2 Sky and Flight Factor wish you a pleasant flight experience.
Great. All right, so let's make a start then. So, let's just check airplane. We're on the ground. Chocks are in. Let's get the ground power unit, and it'll give us an idea of, is it too loud? Can we hear it at all? And so on. So I'll shut up and let you hear. Well, I can hear it, and it's very quiet, very subtle, which is what you want. Let's come out. I've just pressed C, by the way, to come outside, so that was why the cockpit just went funny. I just changed to an external camera that happened to be stuck inside the plane. And I'm not even hearing it at all outside. But it's this guy. Weird I heard it inside. Let me just full blast it and turn it off. I realise the background sound is quite loud as well. You can tinker with those, but let me turn the airport volume down and let's try this again. Listen. Interesting, you can hear that out there in the cockpit, not from here. Anyway, regardless, it's a minor thing, but still something I want to point out. Yeah, so everything else there is fine. So we'll come back to that in just a sec. I just want to get the aircraft powered. So yeah, this looks very 767-ish. I can see why they did both of them. And I can see why it took me so long to buy the second, because it felt like I already owned it, really. Battery cover on. Close the cover. We've got the standby. I'm going to go to auto. And again, those of you not aware, you can screw up the start if this is anything like the 7.6, where you can break the plane by putting the wrong switches in the wrong position for the wrong order or wrong amount of time, whatever. Not just starting the engines to full power too quickly, but there's other ways you can break things. So, you know, if you haven't a clue what you're doing, you're just pressing switches just like the real thing. It's possible to knacker it. All right, ground power is available. So I'm going to hit that, I think, and then I'm going to work on the bus ties. I think that's the way to go. Could, of course, be wrong. Available to on. Let's tie my side. Your side. We've got the util bus as well. Let's get that. And your side. And all of that's on. Right. Generator's gonna clearly wait because the engines are not running. So that's that. Right. With that done then, let's carry on. Let's set this to bright. The lighting there. Cockpit door. We'll leave that on auto. We've got the logo light. We'll turn that on. We've got the cabin lighting. I'm going to set that to halfway. Charts. We don't need. Dome lighting. We don't need. Here we've got position, which is like your nav lights, so we'll turn that on. And then we've got the anti-collision. So red is like your, you know, it's your beacon. White is your strobe lights. Wing lights are self-explanatory. We've got nose gear and landing lights here. Turn off lights here, so that's pretty good. All right. Standby instruments. We see the smaller one, what that's doing with this particular setup here. We've got the larger dial, which, if you look on the background, I think is changing that ever so slightly. That's going to be a lot easier to see during the night. Everything there looks good, so that's fine. And I think despite the grubbiness on the screen, we can work with it. Again, I wish there was a setting that was like halfway between this and off, because that would be, I would use that all the time. This just seems a little too much, and the other one just a little too pristine. Turn the panel lighting up, so that is, it's not going to make any difference in this lighting, but that's your, you know, your little texts, you know, your backlighting that. And nice little touch as you move the camera. You can see the chair here slightly rolls back and forwards. That's again a flight factor, isn't it? I'm going to fold the armrest out the way just so I've got easy access to the controls here. And if I can arm the emergency lights, which I didn't happen to notice that particular setting. Let's get the smoking signs on. Seatbelt signs off still. Here we go. Arm the emergency exit lights. I'm going to try using the mouse wheel. And that works in the way that you'd expect. Brilliant. Let's put the cover on. So mouse wheel in the direction, and it just moved the switch, which is, you know, what you want. And so let's get the nav system aligning. There you go. For those wondering or wanting proof, I bet he's flown it before. There you go. There's your counter 000. So as you fly, I think it's every time you start the engines up, this will count by one. I think, but don't quote me. Certainly after every flight, it'll count and it will save. Right. Although you could probably get around it by completely reinstalling the module, although I don't know. And it does say flight factor limit the amount of installations, although you can contact them for more. Not something I want to try and test. Right. Nav. My side, straight into nav. Your side and the middle. Oh, it's nav. Those wondering why... I'm just going to cycle that middle one because I went to ATT briefly. Those wondering why don't you go into align first, wait for that, and then go to nav mode. And, you know, I've probably said it before. The answer is because it does that automatically by itself. If you go straight into nav mode, it actually puts itself into the align mode, and as soon as it's finished aligning, it automatically progresses to the nav. There is nothing to be gained by, oh, well, if I keep it in align mode an extra 2 minutes, it'll be even more precise. No, it's already as precise as it'll go. I seem to think as well, yeah, look. So if we come over here, we get an idea of what's going on. So if you switch it over into heading mode, usually there's like a status with it, although we don't see it here. That 7 isn't our heading, that's how long till it aligns. And so if I keep it on left, we know that was the first one we did and the center was the last. So once we see that tick down to 6 minutes, if I then switch this to center, it should still say 7 just for a few seconds because that was the order we started it up. All right. Let's come down here. We're hearing some bings already. That'll be the flight attendant probably complaining about something. Let's make a start on loading the aircraft. So if we come over here, fuel wise, and again I like to operate in pounds where possible. Sometimes I'll go metric on some buses just to keep my hand in the game, but usually it's imperial. So it's 14.5 rounded up, and then another point, so it's 14.6. So with the chart there, and the sort of aircraft tablet here, let's come over to operations aeroplane. Is it ground? There we go. And here we see fuel. Default seems to be £30,000, and if we look up, just like the 7.6, the fuel is indicated here, left, center, right, with a helpful totalizer there. Says £40,000 at the minute. The default reload is, as you see there, to 30. We're going to knock it down to, as we say, 14.6. Right, page 3 then. And that's going to give us Now again, bit of a problem here with the passenger numbers, and I think this is probably because the 757-200, which this aircraft is probably rigged to carry that many passengers normally. Of course, we've got the presidential version. In order to keep, that you can see here, can't carry anything like that many. There's a weird load out there. What we're going to do is take a look at the payload or zero fuel weight and see if we can get those close. So we've got zero fuel weight here, 147. Got to try and get it to 184. So passengers looks like it's full anyway. Cargo looks like we might be able to carry more. Is this the CG? Yeah, not the amount. So let's up it. Let's see if we can put 30,000 in as a start. Yes. CG's off, but gross, zero fuel, 184. So I'm going to need about £43,000 in there. And that's let me have it, and that's given us a zero fuel weight. I don't know if you can see that number here, it's quite small. 184,374. We've got 184.0 here, so I'm just going to knock it down by £300 by just reducing the passengers slightly. Let's go 48 instead of 50, and that gives us 183.954. That's 184, so within £46, we're on the money. We've got CG here. The default is based on this 54. We can either manually shift stuff around or we can hit optimize CG. Let's try it. Now it's still 52, and that must be because we're maxed out on cargo. Well, that unfortunately is a no-go. So I am going to have to reduce the cargo some. Let's try reducing to 40,000. I realize, there we go. That's brought us within CG limits, even though we are now a little lighter. So I've got to go back to 50. Actually, how many passengers? We can have up to 53. I realise that only puts us on 182,000 instead of 184. It's close enough, man. I mean, it's a ton. I realise it's not. It's a ton off. Right. Let's then start loading. Error, no passenger bus. So you see, it's even a stickler for the fact that we've not got a bus there. So the doors open, the stairs, everything. It's unhappy that there's no bus. So let's request a passenger bus and let's try it again. There we go. Loading the plane. Please wait. Brilliant. Right, while all that's happening, we can do the rest because that's the fuel, the payload, the passengers all taken care of. Alright, page 1 then. Let's start with the FMC. There you can see the fuel, look, is being drained out while we can hear the stuff clanging in back getting loaded. Sounds very much like a passenger load taking place, not so much a president's plane. I can hear women and kids and all sorts, but we'll make it work. Alright, so let's come down here then. We'll move that out the way. We'll switch this. And again, there's 2 or 3 different versions. The more older school, the newer version. You've got the extended 7.5 and the regular, the -2, the -3. So, you know, that's the if you get the global package. I'm going to switch this to plan and make a start on here. Nav date, route date. Okay, so I need to basically reload the whole Navigraph thing again. I didn't reload it this occasion. Never mind, we'll still make it work. It looks, how out of date is this? Surely not 2001. No. 2021 January. Right, never mind. So it's a couple of years, 2.5 years out of date. We'll make it work. So we'll clear that, pause in it, and if there's any waypoints that don't work because of this, we'll just restart it. So EGCC, which is of course where we are, Manchester Gate. I'm going to ignore that. I'm just going to turn that down a tad as well. We've got our GPS position here. I'm going to grab that and just drop it into the IRS position. And with that, we can switch to page 2, pause ref, page 3. IRS left, center, right. Clearly nothing there yet. We've just got the GPS. So back to page, the initial, over to the route. I'm wondering, can I load this in? And I'm not going to risk it, because usually if you can, the only problem is, as we say, because some of this nav database is like half a year out of date, this might not. Sure, we're going to try it anyway, just in case, and then we'll see what happens if it don't work. So EGCC is our departure, EGPH is where we're going to, and then the obligatory 01 into the company route, and route not found. Okay, fine. EGCC then for departure, EGPH for the destination. Departing runway, we are expecting 23 right. I'm just gonna, yeah, let's take it. It's the nearest one. There's no point taxiing over to 23 left, as even though that's the way they do it. It's just, this is nearer. Right, suddenly that sound effect abruptly stopped. That to me says the loading's complete. A bit abrupt, but whatever. It's an indicator that it's all good to go. Flight number, yeah, Air Force 2. So let's see if it'll accept something that short. I've never tried. Yes, it will. Brilliant. Right, next page then. How are we getting there? Well, looks like the Pole 5 Romeo departure. I've never gone out of that one. And that's direct to Pole, or Pole Hill, Papa Oscar Lima, VOR Beacon by Leeds. November 601 Airway. And that takes us to INPIP. And again, if this is in, great. Yes, it is. Fantastic. And then we're on the INPIP 1 Echo, so that's a very easy flight plan. Right. And I like that you can see the plan while you're in planning mode. Some aircraft let you do that, others don't. Sometimes you have to wait till the IRS is aligned, not with others. This one, clearly we're not aligned and it's letting us see it, which is sort of the best of both worlds, really, isn't it? At least I think so. So here's our departure 23 right. There's INPIP, our last waypoint, and EGPE, there's Edinburgh. So let's activate that. We get the exec, accept, perfect. Performance init page then. So let's get rid of this. Get the aircraft tablet on and gross. Wait, you could. Let's just try if you can be lazy and click. You can. That's the first and only time I'm going to do it though. But you know, for those wondering, if you want to be lazy, you can just click on a blank, well, a suitable thing, and it'll let you do it. Cruise Alt clearly is. Well, it's up to you, right? Reserves, and so we've done that. Let's bring that one back. Page 1. So the reserves are going to be, I always like to round the reserves down to try and reduce the number of erroneous fuel messages. So let's go 7-2. Going to ignore the purser who's bigging away. Cruise Alt was 18. 17, then 18. You know what? I'm not going to mess around changing flight levels for a very short part of an airway. We're going to stay at flight level 180. Cost index is 10. Whenever it's less than like 20 or 25, I always like to increase it a bit. But as soon as it's a short flight and it's the first one, let's just go with what SimBrief says. Average winds 239 at 27 knots. Put that in, and so all of that's in. Exec. Depart, arrive then. Let's just check in with Manchester that we are shooting off any 2-3s, and then assuming that is, we'll grab the departure. Again, usually they use 2-3 left for departing, which makes sense. 2-3 right for landing, because if you take a look at the setup, if you land on 2-3 left, you've got this long back track, and on 2-3 right, obviously you can vacate here. And if it's not busy, they do everything off 2-3 right, so there is that. But let's just check which way the wind's blowing. 121.98, and again, good excuse to check the radios. So 121.98. It could be I was using this automatically last time, so it's going to auto detune. If it does, I'll use nav2. Yeah. Alright. So those wondering, is that a bug? No, it's just if you've got a setting, if you basically have a little go with air traffic control in Xplane, it auto-tunes your radios for you, or it offers to, which is just massively helpful because it keeps telling you to change frequencies in the heat of the moment. 121.98. Of course, you can just turn that setting off, but I don't want to waste your time doing it. 121.98 then. So that's, we'll just use radio 2. So, right side. So look at that, on off, that works great.
Runways 23 left. Right. 90 degrees at.
Alright, minor complaint, you can't change the volume, but it's on or off. I always like to check those two things.
Sky conditions scattered at 2,700. Scattered at 12,000. Broken at 23,000. Temperature 14. Dew point 10. QNH 1017. Advise on initial contact. You have information. Yankee. Manchester information. Yankee 1140 Zulu. Arriving runways 23 left.
23 right. There we go.
Runways 23 left. 23 right. Wind 190.
She did say 1017, didn't she?
1702210.
Minor.
More than 10 miles. Rain. Sky conditions.
Minor wind shear.
2,700. Scattered at 12,000.
Just grab the pressure,
23,000.
and then we'll shut her off.
Temperature 14. Dew point 10. QNH 1017.
Yeah, so 1017, winds from the south, very minor wind shear, and yeah, 2-3 left and right in operation. So I'm going to grab 2-3 right just because it is the nearest. Then we've got our departures. We've got pole 5 here, and our route, I believe, was pole. It was, if it hasn't been updated, it will be pole 5, and it is great. So I don't think we're going to lose out anything by not having updated the database on this particular flight. Of course, it's still highly illegal but whatever. Right, pole 5, that's in, and if I zoom in, I'm looking for my controls here all the time, but they're down here on this aircraft. So we'll reduce the range. Get rid of that temporarily. Even one more. That there looks perfect, so just a right-hander onto Pole Hill. Okay, exec. Insufficient fuel, so there's that caution we were talking about. We'll ignore that. We'll hit over to the route page. Performance in it. The numbers are in there. Takeoff page. Flaps. Now that's something I've not yet had a look at. And so we've got 0, 1, 5, 15, 20, 25 and 30 is flaps full. So we're skipping the flaps 2 and the flaps 40 or the flaps 45 and indeed flaps 50. So it's still more settings than the Airbus, but not quite some of them. So I'm thinking flaps 5. Boeings, if it's got a flap 5 lever setting, typically it's a good one to go with for takeoff. 15 if it's a shorter runway. Flaps 1 is usually just the leading edge flaps, usually, or just a tiny, well, like a degree of flat with it. But anyways, D rate in degrees. CG, and we've got V speed. Speaking of the CG, I think maybe again that's something we can tap, and indeed we can. So of course you could just go to your load sheet and look it out, and but to save time we'll just do that. Pause shift, we're gonna use the full length and then the V speed. So it's just a case of how much are we gonna derate the engines in degrees. Now I assume we can just freestyle it, and because I know it's a long runway, Outside temperature pretty cold again, you know, for the height of summer here. Manchester, UK, 14 degrees. Horrific. We've had a real good start to the summer here in this, you know, in England, the UK, until about a week ago. And then it cooled right off, and it's been a bit dodgy since then. Hopefully it'll come back. Right, so I'm going to derate. Let's just try something like 45 degrees. We'll put that in. And it's still not giving me V-speeds. Is it because I need to... Yeah, there we go. Press that. Now it's giving me V-speeds. So ref, select. I don't know why. All of a sudden I remember the flight, the 7.6 being the same. And so these speeds to confirm. Decision speed 38, rotating on 41. And if we lose an engine, it's 147. And I can't remember if it was one that you had to plug in using this little device, and I think it is. And so again, very 7.6-ish. So it's this one here. So you've actually got to set these manually, which is very unusual when we've got it here. So 138. So as I dial this one, just keep an eye on these numbers here where my mouse is, and this. And I can't just plug these in like in a modern and it'll go big and that's the end of it. You've got to dial this here. So here you'll see it now, V1. So I'm just going to dial this round till we get to 38. And then I'm going to hit it once. And then dial it again. And now it's the rotate, which is going to be 41. Again, hit it one time. Dial it again. And so if we lose one, it's 47. And then we've got ref, and so assuming all goes well, you know, this is sort of what you want to accelerate to now. Usually, I don't know if you put flaps up clean speed, although we don't have that given to us, or if you just put, you know, whatever the SID wants you to go to. I'm going to go, I'm not going to hit OK, but just in case it times out, I'm going to just leave it at 220. I'm just going to have a little look. Hey, see, it's already gone small. It's not green, though. Departure, and we'll just see if we do have a speed restriction for pole 5. Rog, turning right here and here. No turns, max 250 below 10, that's it there. I don't see any other speed restriction that's jumping out on me there. So we'll refer back to that in a sec, but for now, I'm just going to ref if it's not too late to 250, and I can create. Okay. Right, 250 is in, and I'm going to make that green. So there we go. So all of those speeds are in. V2's here, but again, I'm going to try getting straight on to 250. Let's just be... Hey, I like that little bit of a wobble. Let's just put 220 in for now. I love that little wobble. I kind of memories of old planes doing that. Right. Are we aligned? Quick way to check by looking at this is just go to pause, and if it's not 0, then it's done. So we've got left, center, right, and again, I love this about the flight factors. There's already a tiny little bit of drift between the systems. You know, most modules, they don't bother with that, and the more modern ones are just correct for it anyway. So with that system up and running, we can put dampers on. Probably in up because we've not got the hydraulics and whatnot on yet, but in terms of GPS and INS, it's all good. Right, let's go for it then. So, signs on. Landing altitude, well, that's currently based on where we are rather than where we're going, which is about 250. Oh, it's to the nearest 10. Well, it's 240 then, just so it's nice and precise. There we go. The signs are on. Let's close up. I'm forever going to mess those two tablets up. Which shortcut for which one? Operations. Ground. Let's get rid of everything apart from the ground power unit and the chocks. So the stairs, the luggage loader, the fuel truck. the waste unit, the bus, and the loader. Then we switch over to the aeroplane. And we click here. Oh, there is a close all. Let's just hit that. Boom. Okay. Just so I'm on the right page when I come back to this, back to the chocks and the ground power unit. But for now, we need those. Let's close that. Let's come up here then. And let's start the ground power unit. And again, I think you can knacker this. So we'll leave it running. You know, you're supposed to wait a minute. Most modules you can straight away turn them on, put them on bleed, power it, they don't care. This one we are going to wait just so we don't knacker it. So before we start, I think actually it automatically turns on the fuel pump, so let's try. So APU into the on position. We'll just give it a sec. I don't know if that fault light is basically waiting for the door to open or if it's just because we've not started the APU. Either way, I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds more just in case it is the door. And apparently not, so I'm going to put it into the start position. And yeah, fuel is, look at that, it's automatically taking the fuel. And I can hear something whirring. And if I come over to the status page here, there we see APU EGT coming up, RPMs coming up. And so that is that. Okay. Speeds we've done and taken care of. So now that that's done, I then press again. Or do we do that and then go click it? There we go. Click there to make them big. Then we'll close it like thus. Great. It's done. And so that's my side. Legs your side. Again, nav date, out of date. We know for this flight, and thankfully is no factor. Alright, so push lights out. Oh yeah, so frequencies here will say automatic on my side, so it'll auto dial things versus you doing it yourself. I think we can do it your side as well. Yes, we can. Down here we've got the ILS one, and again I just know this from the 7.6 is just the same, and because we are departing off 2-3 right, which we will return to if things all go wrong. Again, there is at least a chance, even without random failures, that things will, which is where we'll make sure we set the stopwatch going once we start the engines. 2-3 right. It's for the Cat 2, Cat 3, but either way we'll get the frequency. So it's 109.50, so just so you dial that in. And so yeah, if you're tuning this, you're thinking, hang on, why is it skipping out certain frequencies? What's that all about? That's because you can only dial the ILS frequencies in here, and here you can only dial the VORs. And, you know, they use different frequencies, the ILS is the VORs. And so it'll feel like some of the frequencies skip out. See how it goes 55 to 70? That is what that is. So don't think, oh, it's glitched. It's just the way it is. Course is 232. And of course, sometimes they just let you tune both in on the same system. For whatever reason, it's split on this one. Squawk. Well, do you know what? We'll fly as 0002, why not? Right, APU's been up and running for at least a minute, so let's go ahead and start with APU Gen. So we see here we've got the failure, because I guess that means it's not on, but at least it's capable of it. It weren't lit up before. So let's do it. You watch everything. Just on. Ground power still on, interesting. So we need to disconnect, I think, ground power. So here we go, 3, 2, 1. There we go, and see everything flicker for a bit. So we're off our own power now. While that's on then, let's get all the fuel pumps on. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't need the center tanks because there's nothing in there. I'm going to get the hydraulics on now, and then hopefully these in-ups will go. So I'm just going to hydraulic, electric. elec. Can't remember if you press them all now, wait till the engine starts, but I think the electric ones I'm going to do now, so let's go for it. And now this one. And that's got your damp cautions out, great. And then we'll do these ones here. I can't remember if it's just before or just after engine start. Either way, the electric pumps are all up and running and they've taken care of things. Generators are obviously still to go because we've not started the engines, which is fine. But otherwise here, everything so far. Okay, packs, that's the next one. I keep getting this light factor thing, I think. So let's set this to USB, which has nothing to do with USBs, but window heat, we'll turn those on. This one as well, we'll set that one to AM. And then here we've got the this is just for your sort of longer range communications, which doesn't really apply to us today, but either way we'll turn it on. Right, you've got your pressurization here, you've got manual, auto 2 and auto 1, and for some reason auto 2, at least if it's the 7.6, is the default, so we'll go with auto 2. There seems to be a little bit of a correction. Auto rate, I'm going to set it to where the recommended spot is, so about there, just a bit less. The signs are on, and let's go with the pack. So we've got the engine bleeds here, we've got the APU bleed here. Duct pressure comes up, we've got the isolation valve, which I assume is shut, which is why only one half of the duct pressure is gone. Let's open it, and indeed that is what it is. And so the ISO valve is open. Let's set this here to automatic, so left. And we hear it, duct pressure drops. If we set right, it should probably drop a bit more. Indeed it does. So both packs are on. And here we've got the temperature, and I always find that auto is far too hot, so I'm just going to go for like 11, half 10, 11 o'clock. Temperature is a little bit chilly, but that's just because of, as we've seen, it's not very warm outside. Trim air on, that gets rid of a few more MCs, and then we've got the recirc fans. We'll turn both of those on. There we see the temperature there ever so slightly starting to climb. Brilliant. The emergency locator transmitter, that's all armed as well. I think engines both to automatic. Oh, didn't want to do that. I hope I hadn't knackered it there. Back to auto. You see, look at this. We've got an in-up now where I accidentally switched that switch too far over. Let's try cycling. Reset. That surely can't have knackered it. Oh dear. Oh no, the bus and all. Right. Well, we'll see what's what once the system's up and running. I hope I am, because by hell we're going regardless, even if half the bus is not on. Right, let's ask for pushback then. So auto brake quads. Right, let's just go for it. So hopefully the same controls. Yes. And pushback to... Let's go to there. Oh no, that was too close maybe. Let's go... there, and then there, just so the engines start not facing the airport.
Ground to cockpit. Plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you're ready.
Ready.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Right, caution light. Get rid of that. Quick look outside. That's the situation. It's raining in Manchester. What's new? So chocks to go. Ground power unit can now disappear because we're running off our own. So again, operations grounds, which is verify again that we're not using ground, and we're not. So disconnect and chocks to go. Again, just a split second. Oh, I accidentally moved that switch too far, and you know, it seems to have really upset. You know, we've got, I don't know if that bus was always off, but
Okay,
I think not. But
hatches
certainly
are
this
closed, ready
recirc
to
fan.
connect.
Basically, the right half of the aircraft seems to have gone. We see this here as well. I think that was like that. Right, let's get the hydraulics on the engines. It says to press. Let's just press it and hope things continue to be okay. Right, as soon as this guy's almost ready to push us back, let's get the red beacon on. And let's just do a PA announcement. Why not? PA, doors to auto.
Attention, all flight attendants, doors automatic.
And I think you can basically play these but without having to hear them, so we don't moan at us for the safety demo. I'm going
connected
to
and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
see here where we've got PA and cabin and interphone. I'm just going to turn these like that.
Ladies and gentlemen,
There we go, the cabin one. So
attendants demonstrate the safety features.
oh, and you can turn that one down, which is interesting. So we'll turn it just so we know when it's done, but without it bothering us. Okay, so this guy's ready to push us back. Let's get the transponder into altitude off. Standing on the pedals, parking brake disappears.
Starting pushback and you may start engines.
Right. Does it get rid of the chocks automatically? No. Oh. Options. Ground. Oh, I don't know actually. Because look, they're disappeared. Okay, it did get rid of them automatically, but it was a little bit of a struggle to start moving. Alright, so we're ready to start the engines. And so what we're going to do is packs off both sides. Isolation valve open. I'm going to turn the engine bleeds on both sides. I assume you need them on. Sometimes not until they're started, but I don't think it ever causes a harm. But sometimes if you don't put the bleeds on, it won't start at all. Take, for example, 7.4 Classic. Right, let's try it then. We've got the caution light. I just assume that's because they're not running. Start as 1, seeing as it's the first time, and we will start engine number 2 now. We're on. Can certainly hear something. Let's get the engine 2 on there. We've also got this one here. We'll turn that on. N2 is already at 30. 2, 3, 4. Let's put fuel on. And that looks good to me. The other engine will watch it start from the outside. I'm sick of hearing this. Let's just, there we go. In fact,
tampering with
that way. Right, good start on 2. Let's start number 1. So same again.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Alright, let's do that first. So I'm going to press the pedals and pull, release the pedals.
Disconnecting toes. Stand by.
Didn't seem to be animated, but that's fine. And got rotation. Let's come inside and put fuel on. Not the best starting animation sequence in the world, but whatever. As I could have set the camera a little better as well, but
detected. A bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
It's quite a distinctive front. Like, it seems like a much, I don't know how to say it, like a much smaller nose somehow, despite being a longer aircraft than some of them. Usually you sort of see the nose and the cockpit blended a little more in one. Right. I need to start the, again, so let's start the clock here, just so we can keep tabs on that. He's disappeared and he's showing us the pin and all, so we're good to go. So we're going to leave this switch up here on automatic. Now that the engines are on, let's start by generating your side. 3, 2, 1, my side. And then I'm going to disconnect the APU bleed. Off. Engine bleeds are supplying duct pressure. I'm going to turn off the APU generator first. Off. Turn the packs back on. My side, your side. It's a relief to see this caution light has disappeared. The counter now says 001, so again, it does seem to be based on the engine start. And with that, APU, as far as I can tell, can disappear. Off. I assume it's just going to run itself down in the standard way. Ready to go. We will be in a sec. Just a quick flight controls check. Oh shit! I'm sure we put the parking brakes on. Caught that just in the nick of time. How did that happen? That was not ideal. Right. Let's set this from plan to nav. That there looks good. APU gens off. We know parking brakes on. We know those are the only two caution lights. We do got the recall here. That seems to be it. We could cancel those. Recall, great. That seems to work good. The only thing I want to do then is set here what we've got accordingly. So first off, quick flight controls check. So I think to do that, we come over again to the status. Now we're looking down here. So pushing forwards, neutral, pulling back. Does seem to be slightly delayed from what I'm doing. Neutral. So if you look at me, just look from me pushing how long it takes. Which, you know, if it's like that in the heat of the moment, it could be problematic. Right, let's roll left. Neutral, roll right, neutral, left boot, neutral, right boot, neutral. Yeah, hopefully, I mean, you know, when you got crosswind, especially when it's gusty, you have to be dancing on the pedals, and if there's that much of a delay, that's gonna be, if it really is like that when it gets going, that could, you know, in bad weather, that could be problematic. We'll see. All right, so flight control check is cool. I'm happy with that. So let's go flaps 1, flaps 5. Get rid of the status engine page, and I think engine and oh no, there we go. We'll leave it like that. Again, the bottom page I think by default is blank, and then the failures have got, that's where they go. Auto brake RTO. Still says parking brake. I'm gonna have to watch the video back later and see, did I really put the parking brake on, or how did that become disconnected somehow? Or was it somehow when I flicked from one system to another it cut it out, which it shouldn't have done, but who knows. Anyway, all of that's good. So without having, thankfully, not into the building, we can turn the turn-offs on, and I assume this is taxi. It says nose gear. It's not immediately clear if it's for taxi or for landing. Probably a bit of both, right? Turn-off lights, to me, they kind of suffice as a taxi light. Let's put the nose one on. Let's just roll with this. Alright, parking brake. Again, pushing the pedals to release. Yeah, so the actual pedals, when I'm squeezing them for brakes, doesn't seem to be animated, but clearly it's working. You can see that it jolts. I'll show, we'll listen to it. Sounds good to me. Alright, those of you new here, I like to use tiller to control the aircraft, so not that I have a physical tiller like this, but I have the Warthog friction lever, which is kind of a similar thing. I find it brilliant. Not the rudder pedals. I do have rudder pedals, I use those for the rudders. So if I put full left boot in, you can see it moves a little bit to the left, which is what it should. I think it's something like 6 or 7 degrees you control the nose wheel by when you put full boot in. Perhaps someone can confirm that. Tiller obviously can get a lot more out of it, and you know, that's how it is, and I just prefer using it that way. I'm always big on how planes taxi, so I'm going to do a check here because I have 2 big complaints. One is there's no inertia with some whatsoever, so you can just ram the tiller back and forth and the plane, even big ones, will just instantaneously change direction as though there's no weight there at all. And the second thing is when you go very, very, very slowly, some planes, I'm talking like between 0 and 1 knots, some planes, like, they have this weird stickiness where you can't go as slow as you like. You've either got to go like 2 or 3 knots or faster, or you're stopped. There's no in between. And so I'm going to try and just let it go really slow here and see if it suffers with that stickiness. But it seems like we're still moving. Again, we're maybe slightly faster. So I'm going to try and just slow down just a little bit and see if we don't get that weird sticky behavior. Perhaps it'll be easier for you to gauge from this view. So that, oh look, that nose wheel compression there when I was using the wheel brakes. Let's try again. Again, trying to go really slow without stopping. Yeah, so you can see it does seem possible to do. As soon as I release, I'm sort of ever so slightly squeezing the wheel brakes. As soon as I release, which I've now done, you can see it slowly starts to pick up pace again, which is just full idle, which is fine. Alright, engines have been on for 7 minutes, so we can reset that. That's fine. I did want to check the tiller itself, so I was trying to deliberately be smooth before, which I'm doing again now. Now at a slow speed like this, you'd expect it to respond pretty snappily. So what I'm going to do is just pick up the pace and then just move the tiller over. And if it's the way that I want it to be, even if I just jam the tiller all the way over, the nose wheel should take a bit of time to get there. It shouldn't just instantaneously follow, but we'll see. So I'm going to put it fully over to the right. And there you see, it did take a little bit of time, but it was still a little bit quick, although the ground is wet, so you'd maybe expect it to go somewhat quick and potentially skid. Center line. Now you see there's a bit of an, even though the nose wheel went center there, did you see it? The inertia, the plane kept skidding to the right a bit. Let me try and show that from this view. Full left, tiller now. See there, it's taken a bit of time to get going. You can actually see there was a bunch that looked like it, that looked burst. There's a bunch of smoke there. Was that just skidding in the rain? Straight again. See how it's still twisting for a little bit. I really like that inertia, and that's something that to me is a job well done. Again, is it exactly right? I don't know. I've never taxied a 757 in the wet or in any other examples, but it feels right. The thing has got weight to it. If you get it rotating in a certain direction, it makes sense. You can't just instantaneously stop the rotation. So, you know, inertia's the name, and it seems to work good. Right, let's just try taxiing with the rudder for a bit now. So again, just easy on the left, and that just goes as you'd expect. And again, this is one of my, I've noticed there's like 1 or 2 aircraft in Flight Sim 2020 that do this well, but a lot of them just get it so wrong. And it's just this a bit, look at this, you have to push the pedals quite a long way just to get a little bit of a response, and that's what you want. That's realistic. That's how it is. You know, if you want sharper steering, it's this one, but you've got to slow down to do it. And so here I'm coming in kind of hot. And then you can see there's just a bit of time to get it going, but once it's going, it goes. Right, let's brake. And we're here. Right, time's all been ticking. Everything's gone well. I'm going to turn the volume up because I just realised I didn't hardly do anything here with regards to the departure. I'm not going to verify the whole departure thing. It's going to be a waste of time. So let's just pull that, release my pedals. That's great. The only thing I do want to do is make sure we're pointing the right direction on departure. So Manchester, you see that's been auto-tuned in, 1355. As we've said, it's where are we here? No turns below 760. So I'm going to use that bit of information, set that to the barometric. I'm just going to dial that up until I see 760, and that's going to remind me on that set. 5,000. That weird sort of wobbling effect, pretty cool. Perhaps a little exaggerated, but whatever, it's in. The initial heading was just says straight ahead, so I'll grab it off this page, airport page. 231. Right, speed there 147, that was V2. Okay, well we'll leave it in there if that's the way they want to play. And so we've got heading in, we've got the V2 speed, we've got the altitudes. We can see there we've got the initial... it can't be like that, surely. Surely that's displaying incorrectly. We've got a smooth turn, it's not an... Well, we'll see how it goes. We'll put it on the LNAV and we'll see how she goes, because really, this is a fully LNAV VNAV compliant, allegedly. Alright, parking brakes off. We'll assume we've been cleared for takeoff, so we'll put all the lights on now, including the strobe light and a wing light. We'll just ring a ding there. Now, how does this know how high we're cruising? It must just pull it in from the FMC. Kind of like the Airbuses. Yeah, so we're rolling out again. I didn't put any power on, just idle thrust. Alright, here we go then. So the first time flying this thing. And again, I'll let you know any thoughts. So far my thoughts is 767, I have to say. If you've got the flight factor 767, which is the one I had, I didn't have this one, or indeed it's the other way around and you're wondering about the 76, I'm just going to say, aside from so far the model looking different, obviously some of the weights are a little different, they feel the same. Somebody probably ain't going to like me saying that, but I'm just saying it as I see it. Alright, so we're here. Everything is on. I just realised we'll set that to Tara. I'm going to turn the weather radar on. By the way, weather radar is something that sets this module apart from almost, if not everything else. At least the 7.6 was like that. So we'll turn map. Where are we here with the weather? WEX. Turn it up. South. There we go. And so yeah, there's a lot of ground, so that's probably a bit too bright, so we'll turn it down like thus. There we go. Yeah, so we see on the flight plan here that right turn is markated as a 90-degree turn. It's sort of on the dot. That's obviously not the case. It's going to be more gradual. Right. Flight directors, your side, my side, your side. Auto throttle is armed. Auto brakes was already RTO. Flaps are set. Trim 3.4. It's actually set to ways beyond that. There's 4, and there's 3.5, and there's one more notch. So there we go. That's as close as I think it needs to be. And so let's arm LNAV, let's arm VNAV, and with that, let's go for it. So winding up the power, starting the clock, and hopefully the TOGA switch is the same as the 7.6 because I've not set anything else up. 3, 2, 1. Looks good. Sounds incredible. Look at the effects by the engines there. Look at those. Brilliant. Sounds good inside as well. Yeah, I gotta say that rudder is feeling like it's a second or two behind. There's V1, there's rotate, let's go.
Don't sink.
I don't know what that don't sink was for on the rotate, but regardless. Right, wheels up. Trim. I'm feeling like I'm needing to trim back quite a ways. I'm gonna increase my there we go. Alright, it's wanting us to dunk down a bit. And there's the right turn. I'm just going to follow the flight directors. That looks good. We're well above that height that we'd set. The MSA there, 700 and some. Throttled back by itself, which is great. That's a minor thing that the Boeings do that the Airbus don't. Which is interesting, I think. Yeah, with weather like this, good job we've got the radar on, and I think with that I'm going to go ahead and activate center autopilot. Why not? Right, we'll continue climb up to, let's just assume we've been cleared up to 12. Got insufficient fuel notification again. Right, legs page. So yeah, this restriction here at 5. So I'm just going to clear. Invalid, can't just put slash. Alright, what about a delete then? That's more like it. Next page, we've got another one, so let's delete that as well. There we go. Interesting that there's no exec to confirm that, it just did it. So hopefully now, despite being in LNAV, VNAV will go straight through. Alright, let's start cleaning up. So flaps 5 to flaps 1. Auto brakes, they seem to have come off by themselves, the RTO. We'll just... can tilt your weather radar up and down as well, which is great. And obviously for takeoff, usually you tilt it up a tad, so let's do it. I'm going to brighten up the display a little bit. Yeah, I think I can just about live with the slight dirt on the screen. Passing through the transitions, flight levels there, 5,000 feet. I didn't verify that again. This is all about the plane really, but let's standardize that. We got it. I did see on the option to sync left and right, so you can see it's best I can tell not synced, even though we are standard now your side, but there we go. Alright, let's flaps up entirely, and we can see there's definitely a little bit of turbulence, or there was wind change and speed. Let's come up here then and start tidying up. So nose light off, turn off lights off. Whoa. Some of the way you click there weren't quite right, I didn't feel. Logo light could disappear. We'll leave the wing lights on just for a bit because of the weather. And smoke into auto. Wow man, do these clouds look better versus what they were. Right, let's release the camera. How small the plane is versus the clouds. turn it down a bit. Right, we're above 10, and there you see it's pitching down to gain speed, and with it we can get rid of our landing lights. We're in a bit of rain and sun at the same time, it would seem. Now we're back in the shade again. She's climbing fine, and there's a little bit of ortho scenery for you. Looks absolutely fantastic at these sorts of heights. Doesn't hold up quite as long as Flight Sim 2020 as you descend, but certainly up here it looks great. Right, 12,000 feet, it's leveled off because that's all we cleared ourselves up to. Cruise was 180. Whoa, 180, so let's modify that. And just so we can say we've tried it, let's go to flight level change. And I'm going to dial myself 300 knots. Yeah, look at that. Auto throttle, very, very slow at moving the thrust levers. Look how slow. I mean, it was like 5 or more seconds ago now I asked for the flight level change. And so they, you know, really look after the engines, but something to bear in mind. But yeah, I have to say that the takeoff, and I think I remember it being the same on the 7.6 as well. Again, I'll just say that because it's flight factor. Could be like that in real life, I don't know, but it just feels to me that on the takeoff roll, when you're dancing across the pedals, because there's a little, you know, there's gusts from left and right, and you're having to really keep, it just feels like you ask for the rudder, and 5 seconds later, it's not 5, but like, I wouldn't even say a second, but certainly half a second until the plane even begins slightly responding to what you asked it to do. And so you've got to preempt even wanting the request. You know, if you left rudder and, you know, when it's gusted, it's quite hard to preempt what you want. Look at that trend vector. Like, that's one of the best trend vectors I've ever seen. As it's gusting, look at that. Show me a module that has a better trend vector than that in a gust. Right, we'll push the range out, and there we go. Yeah, so you see VOR left, so my one, VOR 1, right, has been auto-tuned to just 2 and a bit miles away. That'll be Pole Hill. We know that was previously tuned to Manchester because we saw the frequency. And of course, if you want it, you can just unhook it here to manual and then set to whatever frequency you like. Again, I don't think you can put ILS frequencies in. Let me just confirm that. So we know we dialed this one in, 109.50. So I'm going to switch this to manual. I'm going to go for 109.50. And AC, it's going to skip over it, so you can't. And so just bearing in mind, the VOR beacons and the ILSs, as we know, are 2 separate things. This thing is going to force you to tune them into 2 separate boxes, which is kind of helpful because that means this one is always and only ever your ILS, and this one never is. And I don't know, it's alright. Automatic. Right, we're coming up to 18,000, which is our cruise. I'm going to set the weather radar to level. Again, if we push this out, and we will demonstrate a ground clutter as well. I mean, we saw it initially on departure. So this here is weather, and the only reason I know it's weather is because Xplane, again, does these weirdish sort of blobs that, in my opinion, don't really... Is the real life weather random? Yeah, but it's not... The way that the blobs are done isn't quite the same. Again, it's, don't get me wrong, it's a lot better than what you see some of the sims that don't even bother, but it's, I just feel that with just a little bit of tweaking they could make that look really good. Right, let's point it at the ground then. So this is 10 degrees down, and there you see it. So that right there, if in fact I can zoom in a little bit for those who've never seen it, is ground clutter return from the weather radar So this red here, and it's not so red over on the left, isn't necessarily, oh well the weather must be really bad there. It's just, it's probably hills there, and over here's flat or even water or something. So it's, let's have a look. Well, what do you know? There you see, look, out the left window we've got water over there, and out the right window well, yeah, there are clouds, but we can just about, in fact, you know, I can cheat, can't I? I can release the camera and I can just set it on its way. I think we can begin and see. Go on. There we go. And indeed, yeah, look at that. We've got the hills here. Lake District area and so on. So, yeah, for those that doubt it, in my opinion, that is the best weather radar sim in out of any flight sim that I've tried. I mean, as far as I'm aware, DCS, at least in the current iteration, completely ignores weather. It did have the MiG-21 show weather in the old way that they did weather, but that's since, you know, ever since they changed clouds, that don't work. I don't know if they ever will implement weather on the radar. I think it'd be great because, of course, the clutter from the ground is implemented as well as enemy targets. So if they get the weather in there as well, I mean, you literally get people going chasing after rain. It would be great. Right, let's up the range a bit then. So yeah, there's the final waypoint in pit, which is only about 40 miles away. Then we've got Edinburgh over there. I've pushed the range out. Look at that. The weather radar is actually detecting ground clutter from 120 to 160 miles away. And in fact, that's a real good image there. Oh, it was until that happened. Of the, there we go, of the northern. So this over here is actually Northern Ireland on my left. This here's the, you know, the western approaches, Irish Sea, and this up here is Scotland. Interesting that it would even read the, you know, even read so far ahead. Right, back to the task at hand. Charts, because Len didn't rig it up previously. So in pip, it's the in pip 1 Echo into Edinburgh, if that's what we were, Edinburgh 36. Let's get rid of this. EGPH, indeed it was. Arrival, there's the in-pip. And so yeah, we'll be coming from this one. Look at that, in-pip, it's basically, we gotta be at 26,000. We're at 18. Do you know what? Let's just comply. So 26, and once again flight level change to get there ASAP. And again, that very, very slow response, but at least we know about it now. Right, reset MCP out, we've done. Init ref, let's just tell the performance here that we will be cruising at 260. That's been updated. It says we're unable, but I think you can do it. Right, depart arrival. See if we can build up from the star first. As we know, Airbus forces you to do the approach first. Yeah, and this might be that we've got an out of date. Hang on, this is EGCC arrivals. What we're talking about. EGPH arrival. There we go. So it's the, we see here the in-pit 1 Echo, so we'll put that one in there. So that's begun. And from there, we was expecting 06. So let's just keep things simple. On the first occasion, the ILS 06. ILS 06. Transition, well, there's only one option, the TLA, which is here. TLA, and if we come in on the arrival brings us to Tartan, which is to the south. The TLA is to the south. I think those two things can be hooked up together. There's Tartan. TLA, It's a mess. So before I exec it, let's just review real quick. Plan. Zoom in. There we are. Come on. Step, 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 step. I'll just zoom in. There's this weird part. You move your mouse in certain areas and I keep getting like this. Have you ever noticed it? It's like a bit of text down here. Every time I look, it then disappears. Yes, there's Impip going this way to Tartan, and then there's that spot to TLA. So I reckon in real life, what they'll do is, even if they do give you this, if there's traffic permitting, they'll keep cutting you across from Esco straight onto TLA. And I reckon they'll only bring you through Tartan if basically there's an aircraft right in front of you and it's to give you an extra few track miles for, you know, to buy a 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it is. A couple of minutes probably. So I reckon that's what they do. And so we'll go straight from TLA and we'll skip Tartan. Bang. So now if we step through, there's Expo, there's TLA, and then straight on in. Right, next thing, because this is going to come up real quick. Minimums, Rad Alt 200. So let's get that one in. So radio, that's set at 2. We'll press reset, let it know. Right, that's done. Airport elevation 136 feet. So to the nearest 10, yes, 140, right? By a foot. There's always the, you know, you really want a little bit, you know, because the doors are like a plug. You want slightly higher pressure outside versus in. Otherwise, it's a lot harder to open the door. And so, you know, if you can do it by 10, 20 feet in your favor, you know, that would be the thing, right? I can hear the engines winding back. I'm going to switch this to VNAV now. And I'm going to come here from the plan mode back to nav. Probably worth binding perhaps the mode switch and the zoom switch to your keyboard or some buttons somewhere, just because it's, you know, when it's here, it's fine to press the buttons here, but this is just a little bit out the way all the time, so I'll perhaps do that at some point. But for now, let's just push the range up a little bit. This here looking good. Progress page, let's have a little look. Descent page. We're now at in pips, so that's where we had to be at 26,000, and I bet it's now wanting to descend. In rev 20,000. Why is it not asking to descend? Because we've got 6,000 feet to lose in about 15 miles. There's no, I'm not seeing any notification leap out at me. So I'm just going to go over to the descend page. I'm going to wind this back. Oh, there we go. Drag required. Does it start descending by itself, or do I need to set it off? I probably need to set it off. Down we go. Right. Oh, there we go. Major vertical deviation. It could have been that I got up to 26,000 feet before, or sorry, after the top of descent by, I don't know, a mile or so, and maybe that's why it didn't let me know. But usually the Boeings let you know, they usually tell you, what is it? I'm wanting to say 9 or 10 miles before top of descent. I don't think I got up, I'm almost sure I didn't get up there that early. Yeah, so look at this. So what I'm going to do is just manually up the speed. Let's go for 320. And that is going to help me catch up with it. Look at this, it's getting worse. I think the weather radar is causing me a bit of a loss of frame rate just when it sweeps over a new picture. Look, when it's... Look, if I keep doing this, see there it goes smooth? And then every so often it'll sort of lag out a bit. I think that's the weather radar. In fact, it even waits for you to stop moving the view before it does it. Right, we've got to keep descending here. Right, we're coming in a little hot here, so I'm going to focus on this. So first of all, init ref. So we've got the options 20, 25 and 30 on the flaps. I'm going to go flaps 25. That gives us 132 knots. Interestingly, when you press it, it rounds it to 131, whatever. ILS frequency is here, 108.90, and it looks like 060. Let's see, is that actually correct? It is 108.90, 060. So let's dial that in down here. 108.90, 060. Weather elevation, just knock it down by part of a degree. Zoom this in as well. And again, still just feels like it's struggling to lose height. So I may now pull the boards. It's like there was 2 settings at least using the spoiler controls, but it does look like you can manually position it where you like. And I haven't set up passenger views yet. I will do that next time. Oh no, keep going. Whoa, no, don't put power on. Down we go. Right, speaking of which, height, let's get this sorted. So 6,000 or above is my next one. As soon as I am in open descent, let's just put 10,000 in. In fact, let's try something. VNAV, but I want speed intervent. Do I have an intervent? Probably just push it, right? There we go. Let's put in power on. Right, let's bring the... Tell you what. That's how you solve that issue. Engines are just not doing what I want. I want to carry on losing height. I mean, look at my vertical deviation. It was putting power on. Almost 6,000 feet too high. And VNAV was adding power. Weird how the engines are a lot louder here than here. Anyway. Yeah, we're coming in pretty hot here. This deviation here is slowly fixing itself, but 10 miles, we're still ways off. And it wants us to be down at 210 as well. So with the auto throttle off, we're almost at not too far off 10,000 feet. And so I'm going to release this, and it can set itself where it wants to be. In this case, 210 knots, which is great. Right. Edinburgh, back, airport page. let's have a look what we're dealing with. 8,400 feet, and runway heading is actually 061 degrees, not 060, which is on the approach. So we'll keep that in mind. Let's just spin that up there for now. I'm gonna go auto brake 1. We'll see how it behaves. If I need to stand on them, I'll stand on them. Right, we're coming up to 10. I'm going to continue this down to 6. But we are on LNAV, VNAV, so actually in theory I could just drop it all the way down to the FAF, which is 4. Zero 060's in, 108.90. Yeah, so far, even the losing the energy is very 7.6-ish. You have to really plan your descent, and you know what I did was might have been great for the 7.3 or the Airbus 320, but in this it just feels like you want to add a, you know, if you're up at 30,000 feet and you think, oh, about 100 miles, in this I just feel like you want to be thinking, unless you want to use the boards, 120. I don't know if that's real or not. I'm just going off, you know, I've been riding the boards here for ages and we're still struggling to catch up with where we want to be. Right. Flap speeds. Flaps 1 to 40. We're well below. I'm going to go flaps 1 just so that there's nothing stopping me. Get anywhere near 210 knots. I'm still riding the boards. We are now through 10, so... Oh, what's just happened there? View 7. Hey? How's my... What the hell? I can't explain quite what's happened there, but... Regardless. Right, turn off lights on. It wasn't like that before. I can't seem to move my camera down. Like, pressing down and the camera's just sliding forwards. Either way. There we go, that's finally on. Wing lights are on. Logo light, we'll put that on. And let's just seat the cabin crew nice and early. Right, we're about to get turned on to final. I'm going to zoom in just a tad. And again, I'm still riding those boards and we're finally getting there. Auto throttle still disabled. I mean, why was it wanting power? I mean, look how idle thrust with the boards, and we're just getting there now. We're still a few knots too fast. I mean, what the auto throttle was thinking, I don't know. We're just coming to standard as well. That's something else I didn't check. So let's stow those speed brakes and see if we can hit Edinburgh up. 131.355. 131. Okay, interesting. 355. Let's have a
6. Departing runway 06.
Well, that's good. At least we've got 06.
More than 10 miles. Rain. Sky conditions. Fuel at 5,200. Overcast at 22,000. Temperature 16. Dew point 8. QNH 1015. Advise on initial contact.
1015. 1015 set. Okay, but
information Mike 1245 Zulu. Arriving runway 06. Departing runway 06. Wind light and variable.
Right, light and variable. Great. Right, so all that's in, and you can see here we're beginning to line up, and like all good. There we go. Like all good Boeings, they let you pre-dial the pressure before going for it. Yeah, it's really struggling to lose the speed here. There's 4,000, which is that is our final constraint actually. So let's go ahead and arm the approach, and it's captured the localizer, and we are beneath the glide slope. So we'll make use of that to just slow down. Now, if I miss, is this one? It's 3,000 and then as directed. So we could actually just continue down to 3 here. Right, so auto brakes are set. Spoilers, there we go, arms. So to arm them is pretty standard. If they're retracted, you press the button to retract them again, which obviously they can't, they're retracted, and that arms them. I like modules that make use of that. Alright, so here we go, going down. I'm adding another notch of flaps now. I'm still not putting any power on. We've reached the glide slope. Flaps 5, that's given us a little extra there. We've got a couple of knots, tailwinds. Look at this. I wonder, will this go all the way down without adding any power? AOA, or the angle of attack there, just seems... No, I was going to say a little high, but it's not really. Perhaps, you know, you'd want a couple more knots on, but it's fine. Right, approach speed was... We went with 131, 132, whatever. Then there's going to be, I guess, ref of 5, which isn't counted here. I'm not sure that's already built in, but regardless... Let's just dial that to reminders. I'm just going to put 131 in. Runway is in sight. And I don't think we need the weather radar anymore. I'm just going to turn it off for frame rate purposes. Oh. And that's just made it bright. Weather. Oh, that's just toggled it between the weather and the map. Come on. There we go. Hopefully that'll do. Right, another notch then. So let's go one more notch of flaps, 15. And let's dump the gear. Again, look how slow. How slow it is to lose the energy. Even a 747 is easier to slow down than this. Right, nose gear on. We'll just, you know, with that, we're clear to land, right? So this, gear down, flaps 15 on the glide slope. And yeah, the speed is beginning to wane away now. Only just. Boards are armed, auto brakes are set, down in 3 green. 2 notches of flaps to go. We're at 1,200 feet. I'm still on manual throttle, so I'm going to just add a little bit now. At least when I add power, the throttles move immediately. Right, flaps 20. Alright, with that, let's set for landing flaps 25. So I guess really ref would be 136, right? So let's sort of shoot for it. I'm going to disconnect. Same button as the flight. Yeah, so if you've got the flight factor 76, I'd just copy your controls over, save it as a new, in this case, 75. Saves a bunch of time there. I'm happy with it overall. Right, here we go. The zoom feels very far zoomed out versus some of the other modules. I don't want to zoom in and screw up my perception, so I guess I could do that a little bit. Which isn't zooming, I was just moving myself forwards. Actually, that is a little better. Yeah, so 500. Looking good. Just ballooned it a little bit there.
Minimums.
Yeah, continuing.
100.
Hey, I like that flashing as you're getting a little slow.
50. 40, 30, 20, 10.
Go on then. Go on. Gotta say, nice bit of ground effect there as well. Deploying the reversers, very easy to lower the nose wheel down gently. Feels like the runway's running out awfully quick. Auto brake 1 is not going to be enough, so manual braking. Sounds like some of the passengers are clapping there. It's President himself. Right, idle reverse. Yeah, so at least it's one of those where the minimum auto brake just doesn't, you know, because some of them, it's like, they're so quick to stop, aren't they? Yeah, this one, it really feels like you need to think about your auto brake setting a little bit. And so, yeah, let's just replay that last. Hopefully it won't crash the game. I did this with that CRJ1000. It rewinded it a little bit along the runway, then crashed. Some say, well, why'd you rewind it? Why not just move the thing back? But it has crashed the game. Never mind. So that's going to be the end. The answer is, because if you just skip it back, in my experience, it doesn't always then play back properly. But here we can see there's another bug. Because this has now happened with both Xplane and the Flight Factor, I'm going to put that bug more in Xplane's fault garden, if that's what you want to call it, versus Flight Factor's. Anyway, I really enjoyed the flight. Overall, I've got to say, it's just like the 7.6 in terms of quality. Is it one of the better modules there? Well, you can see for yourself, it's pretty good. Is it worth the price tag of the most expensive? I don't think so. Is it worth one of the premium price tags if you compare some of the others that were like sort of $40 or $50 less? And so we're talking, you know, outside of a sale, we're talking the price tag of about $70-ish to $80-ish. Yeah, I think it's about there. I think it's there. Is it worth the $120? Not in my opinion. But there you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time from me, keep it internet flight rules. Take care. Bye-bye.